Hello and welcome back to Baghdad. A couple of weeks ago, the chief prosecutor trying Saddam Hussein on charges of crimes against humanity said he hoped a verdict would be announced in the next few days. No one can really imagine anything other than the guilty verdict with the death penalty. But with more than 50 reported deaths a day, and with the total lack of security and basic services, how high of a priority does this trial have in our life as Iraqis? And would the verdict be as meaningful as we had hoped it would be when the trial first started? It is almost exactly 1 year after our former dictator was put in the defendant's cage for the first time, last October in 2005. And as expected, with all trials of this magnitude, it got messy, complicated and confusing.
والله ليكسأن الأشرار وينتصر الحق والله أنت بسألك كيف تصير عصبي يعني ذاك بدون أعصاب يا
But no need to worry. Today I give you the Salam Pax guide to the Iraqi High Criminal Court. With all the death and destruction, most people have lost interest in what could have been the trial of the century. But in order to try and understand the court, I felt I needed to go and see it for myself. It was only my BBC credentials that got me past the strict US security screening. My cousin's been joking that I've been trying to get a date with Saddam. Well, today is the day. So I'm on my way to the court now, and I don't really know what to expect. I mean, it's going to be the first time I'm actually with Saddam in the same room, and I feel sort of a strange mixture of sort of curiosity and unease, but we'll see how it goes. Getting very close to the point where I'll need to put my camera away, as the camera is something else I'm not allowed to take in with me. Basically, all I'm allowed to bring with me into the court is a notebook and a pen. The list of things that I'm not allowed to tell you the court for security reasons is very long, and instead of getting myself into trouble for telling you things I shouldn't be telling you, let me give you some background information about the court instead. The court was established as early as December 2003, the same month Saddam was captured. But we had to wait 2 years for procedures to start. In those 2 years, judges and prosecutors examined over 2 million documents, collected testimony from around 7,000 witnesses, and read reports by forensic experts from roughly 200 mass graves throughout Iraq. To keep identities of court clerks and officials secret, we get this screen. And as an extra measure, the judge has a kill switch to turn off all microphones in the courtroom, to be used when the defendants decide to turn the proceedings into a political rally, which happens often enough.
المحكمة الجنائية العراقية العليا محكمة أقرر إبعادك من الجلسة أبعدك طلعوه
ما يشوفك نشوف وجهك
طلعوه حتى تكونون.
Well, this is not the first time Saddam has been thrown out of court. So what are the charges against Saddam? Let me give you an idea. The Dajjal case. Saddam's role in the 1982 execution of around 148 Iraqi civilians in Dajjal, a predominantly Shiite town north of Baghdad. The Anfal. Over 100,000 Kurds were killed during a campaign that lasted from 1986 to 1989. The Halabja chemical attacks. Over 5,000 killed in one village. Invading Kuwait and war crimes committed during that invasion. Mass executions of Marsh Arabs in response to the 1991 uprising in the south, around 50,000 Shiite Iraqis killed. killing and deporting of Kurdish Barzani tribe. More than 10,000 members of that tribe were affected. Just out of the court, and my head is actually still buzzing. I'll need a couple of minutes to get my thoughts together. What was really interesting and actually quite a bit funny is that in the press gallery there are actually curtains, and they sort of close them when you're not supposed to see what's happening, and then they open them again. It's just like a circus. I'll tell you more about it in a minute. I just need to sort of process all that's happened. Talk to you later. In the sort of the press gallery in the court itself is actually in the back, and we only get to see the back of their heads, and he sort of kept trying to get glimpses of Saddam. It's just really bizarre. I mean, you know, you sort of, for some reason, he just he was totally dressed up for the occasion today. He had a black suit on, his hair was freshly dyed black, and he had a little sort of breast pocket hanky here. You want to see something in his eyes, or the other defendants' eyes, or something in their voice that say they acknowledge what they've done, that they, you know, that there's something there, that they realize they've done so many bad things. But that did not really happen.
يا حضرة القاضي ألا تعرف مدى التجاوز الذي يحصل؟
الرجل يكون صدره رحب.
نعم رحب ورحب وسيبقى رحب. أكو أرحب من صدر صدام حسين بالكون؟ إن شاء الله.
And another thing, I left the court with a deep respect for the plaintiffs and their courage. While the media might focus on Saddam's antics, we forget that this is about bringing justice to people who have suffered a lot. And now, they have to go through all that trauma again.
My problem is with Saddam Hussein and Ali Hassan Majid, and those are the people in the cage. Nothing will compensate me for the loss of my mother and father when I was only 10 years old. What can compensate me for the loss of my parents, my mother and father?
This man has waited 23 years to be able to face Saddam and say these words. If there is anything that justifies this court, it has to be moments like these. Three years ago, soon after the dust from the war settled, I went to visit a group of people who were gathering thousands of documents from prisons in Baghdad and all over Iraq. Even though I didn't see the crowds of people who used to come here to ask about lost family members, the notices on the walls are still here. As was Ibrahim Al-Idrisi, the founder of this organization, I asked him what he thought of the court.
It's not just me. Everyone is saying this has become a spectacle, an insult and torture to all the people concerned, because they are glorifying Saddam and they are glorifying him in court. The truth is, some of them consider him to be a symbol. The issue is that Saddam is becoming a national hero.
Today, the association has only this computer left working, even though the court's investigators have used the data collected here. There is no money for the work to continue anymore.
عدد الشهداء هسه اللي الأرشفة اللي وصلنا له 130,885.
Up until now, we have received documents for 130,885 political deaths and 105,187 political prisoners that have been released. The sum total of this work is only about 10% of what is still waiting to be archived.
$75 million were provided by the US government for establishing this court, and it seems as though no effort was made to include us Iraqis. Why haven't they used resources like the archives collected by the Free Prisoners Association? And the result of shutting us out? Fear. We all feel it, at home and on the streets.
People are afraid and want to stay away from trouble. It's chaos here. If you talk, they might come and kill you. It's happened. No one talks about this, they're afraid.
At least he said something. I developed a very thick skin from all the rejections. Most people are too afraid to talk.
No, I can't. May God protect you.
It's a farce, and it harms the people. I mean, every time Saddam is on TV, there are more bombings, destruction, and innocent people die.
Well, he was a Shia, and he would say that, wouldn't he? And the other side of the coin? Well, look at what was going on in Saddam's hometown of Tikrit just 1 month ago. This issue, Saddam and his regime, is very divisive. And the truth is, if I'm looking for an objective opinion about the court, I will have to look outside. So I arranged to talk to Nihal Bhutta. He is part of the International Justice Program at Human Rights Watch. The first thing I wanted to ask him is how well he thought the tribunal was doing.
I think it's struggling legally. You know, there hasn't been up till now any international criminal trials in the Iraqi domestic system. These kinds of laws have never been interpreted and applied. And certainly trials of this length and complexity are, as far as I can tell, quite new. You know, my own observation of the ordinary criminal courts in Iraq suggests that trials happen fairly quickly. You know, usually they're over in 20 or 30 minutes.
Isn't it fair to say that at least in terms of Iraqi standards for courts and trials, this is a big improvement on what you see in Baghdad otherwise?
This trial is a big improvement. So I think that's a fair point. I mean, the question for us really, though, and I think for the wider international community is, you know, is a bit better than normal good enough?
But for many Iraqis, this international pressure to give Saddam a fair trial is seen as extending an unnecessary courtesy to him.
These organisations don't have a dictator like Saddam. If they had, they wouldn't be talking like that. Let them see what a dictator is like. Hopefully they won't have anyone like Saddam or a dictator.
And the acid test will be the verdict of the first trial, in which Saddam Hussein and 7 other defendants are charged with the killing of 148 Shias in 1982. But Nihal Bhutta feels there are some fundamental flaws with this trial.
We have some reservations about whether in fact the prosecution met its case or not. Now ultimately that's a matter for the judges. It's already been made very clear to them that they face serious consequences if they act in a way which is seen as somehow lenient on Saddam or the senior leadership. So, as you know, Salam, the level of political pressure and popular pressure to convict is enormous.
I have to agree with Nihal on this. The court has not been doing a very good job of proving its independence and impartiality. So far, after just 1 trial, we have had 5 different judges, of which 1 resigned and 2 have been removed. One of them, Chief Judge Abdullah Al-Amiri, was replaced following accusations of bias from the Iraqi government. The now infamous "you were never a dictator" comment. Many of us Iraqis believe that Saddam's crimes are public knowledge. Saddam has been tried and found guilty in the court of public opinion, if you will. And I'm afraid that this catharsis means that public expectations be satisfied.
All of the people hope that the oppressor will be judged and he will be punished. Saddam Hussein must take his punishment.
I worry that the verdict will sound as hollow as the long list of meaningless milestones the so-called coalition of the willing keeps reminding us of. No matter how much the US and the UK governments will stress the importance of a verdict when it's announced, I'm afraid the death, pain, and violence this war has inflicted on us Iraqis has stripped this moment of its significance. I think we need to achieve peace first, and then we can think about justice.